Projects is just cool. So I don't think a lot of people realize how you can customize these projects to fit what their business needs. What people might not realize is that it works wonderful for residential too. All you have to do is customize it.
Welcome to Mastering ServiceTitan, where you get expert advice from power users. I'm your host, Josh Liu, and today I'm joined by Liz Haynes, the Chief Experience Officer at Streamline Services, and we are diving into projects in ServiceTitan. And so, Liz, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. First, to kick us off, could you give us a quick intro about Streamline Services, what you all do, and your role there?
Yes, Streamline Services, we are a heating and air, plumbing, and electrical contractor in Durham, North Carolina. My role here now is Chief Experience Officer. I've been with Streamline over 5 years, started with dispatch, care center manager, plumbing service manager, and now in this seat. I love Streamline. We're a great team.
When we chatted before this interview, you were telling me 9 months ago, you guys were using spreadsheets to manage permitted jobs. Can you tell me a little bit about what life was like with the spreadsheets and why you all were doing it that way?
Yeah, no, during this time period, I was a plumbing service manager, and one of my coworkers was getting ready to go on maternity leave. I've been filling a lot of different roles and seats here, and it was only natural for me to just cover that aspect of what we were doing within the business with projects and permits, inspections, and I basically had to learn my workflow and the best way to go about managing these projects. And I had seen the projects tab on ServiceTitan. I knew what we were doing as far as spreadsheets were concerned and trying to manage that and the visibility within the organization. It was presented to me to fill this role just temporarily while she was gone. And I was like, well, I'm going to play around with projects. I'm going to, test it out a little bit, but I really think I can get this to work for what we need here. And they were, of course, like, yeah, if you think it'll work, have at it. And yeah, that's what got me into playing with this projects tab.
How did you frame it or introduce this idea to the team?
First, I took a job that I knew was multi-stage, that needed all the things done. And I just set it up in projects like with the statuses and just some custom fields and just to see what it looked like. And I presented it like, you guys need to see this because I think this is it. Like, this is going to eliminate all of the spreadsheets. It's going to increase visibility within all the departments here. So you can see every stage. I did a little research, not a whole lot, but I just started playing around with it and I showed them. And I mean, that's literally all it took.
Before, when you had it on spreadsheets, how was the spreadsheet set up? What I'm trying to get at is I'm sure there's a listener out there who's got something similar and maybe they'll resonate.
We had a spreadsheet for all the trades that showed, the customer name, the type of job it was it permitted, did it pass inspection, anything related to permits and inspections was on that spreadsheet. Also, like who sold it, all the key things that we needed to be able to see and track to know what status it was in. Like we pulled the permit, great, it was approved, how much we paid for it, but what step of the project were we on? And if it was still open or if it was completed, all those relevant details. So anything that you could imagine being on that spreadsheet was on that spreadsheet. But the thing with spreadsheets are, we use Google Sheets. So, you have to either share it with people or your team, or you have to request access. But there's so many questions in each phase of the project or the job that needed answered. And unless you have that spreadsheet, you have no idea. Or you can get up and go ask someone, but it's not efficient. Not to mention that each time you updated the spreadsheet, you had to update the job in ServiceTitan, at least how we do it. So it's a lot of updating. But when I was thinking about it, it was, why are we inputting the same information in multiple different places when there's got to be an easier way? And that's what happened when I started playing around with the projects tab. I like to call it a tab. The projects tab within ServiceTitan, and it's all right there. Like, it's so simple. It's all right there. So you don't need spreadsheets for anything related to projects if you just put the information in.
Anytime we can get rid of a spreadsheet and
Oh
have
my
it in
goodness.
service side, yeah, such a
Like,
huge
you have
win.
no idea because like there were so many spreadsheets for the same thing basically. And we'll get into it when we talk about setting up projects, but like it's just so much better.
Previously, were you guys using ServiceTitan jobs just for like the easier service and repair jobs, the ones that are more straightforward, and then anything that had stages or follow-up
Yeah.
items was on the spreadsheet?
Yeah, so obviously any job that it needed permits and inspections. Permits are very important and they're serious, and you have to make sure that they're completed within a reasonable amount of time, whatever your jurisdiction allows. Mainly what we had on the spreadsheet was any job that was permitted and needed inspection, which is so many. It's so many.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that it turns out pretty much a majority of the jobs you
Yeah.
all do end up there. And so, yeah, I can see how there's a ton of double entry that's happening and a
Yes.
lot of manual work.
It was a
Um,
lot. I mean, all of our HVAC install jobs, we require a permit on it. Plumbing jobs, and even, we do a lot of electrical work too. So any EV chargers, which are huge now, they require a permit. And a lot of these jobs too apply for rebates. So keeping track of rebates was really important also because we promised the customers that we're going to do that. So,
Totally. And so now you've got projects up and running. You're
yeah.
really hitting your stride. What do you think are some of the biggest benefits you and your team experience with projects?
Transparency. Anyone can see the status or phase of any project that we have in ServiceTitan. Task management has been huge with projects also. So basically, the way we have it set up is if you open up this project, you will know what's going on just by clicking around. You can see what status it's on, what it requires, what's left to finish, and if it's completed. And that's what I love to see. I like to see the number of projects that we have and how many are completed. And like I'm looking at it right now in the visual, the project status, and like, there's no question. I have most of these projects completed, and it's not me now. I've turned it over to someone else. But the total number, it's just looking at it's really refreshing because there's no more scrolling, trying to find which spreadsheet it's on. You click the projects tab, and you can see exactly what's going on.
Amazing. Yeah, let's dive into how exactly you set it up, the different components as well. There were so many new things that you introduced me to, the statuses, sub-statuses, the project details, custom fields, the task management.
Yes.
Where would you like to start in the setup and walkthrough?
I am a nerd when it comes to projects. I guess because this is my baby and I've seen it at its infancy, and now we have really grown into this lovely record keeping of jobs. Projects is just cool. So I don't think a lot of people realize how you can customize these projects to fit what their business needs. When I first was playing around with it, from my understanding and just by looking at it, projects is meant for larger scale jobs, commercial type jobs maybe, or multi-trade jobs, and that's fine. It's going to work excellent for that. But what people might not realize is that it works wonderful for residential too. All you have to do is customize it. So I started with basically everything that was already made that ServiceTitan created. I started there. But I needed more information for our team and for what we do here. So I just started clicking around. The project statuses that are already built, they remain there, but you can make sub statuses. And that's what I really enjoyed doing. I would recommend less is more, but you customize it to what you need. So each step of the project, the main components are what I added on sub statuses. I also customized our custom fields. So the custom fields can be applied to jobs, locations, projects, all those things. You just have to click which ones you want them to apply to. And I added all the permit information, the cost of the permit, anything that you want reporting on or that you want to be seen. So if it's like a HVAC install job, you can set that and what visibility you would like in the project. So projects are going to give you so much information. It's how much you want to see. For some, you want to see financials. Job costing is huge. And that's one of the things that really enticed me to start building this is we wanted to get really accurate job costing. You can see all of that information within projects. And there's so much that you can do. But the most fun for me was being able to customize it to fit what we needed. And I didn't have to wait for a programmer to do it for me. I can do it myself.
That's amazing. Yeah, let's go into some of the details of how you set that up. So what are some of the out-of-the-box statuses, and then what were the sub-statuses that you created?
Yeah, so the out-of-the-box statuses are pretty generic. We don't use bid because of just what we do, but that one's going to be there. Pending scheduling, scheduled, in progress, completed, hold, canceled, or no status. I don't like to see a no status one. It's got to have a status, so whatever. In pending scheduling, it could be pull permit or ready to schedule. Like everything's ready. We're just waiting on dispatch to get it on the schedule. Scheduled has remained scheduled. There's no status for that because it is either scheduled or it's not. This is where I said like less is more. Don't get too crazy. If you have way too many options, it's going to be difficult to keep track of all of them. But just the main thing, like needs inspection, needs install paperwork or rebates done, that's in progress. Completed is completed. If it's on hold, what's that reason? Oh, we're waiting for 811 to mark, or we are waiting on materials, or we're just waiting on the customer. So for whatever reason. Canceled actually has some sub-statuses because some of these jobs cancel after we pull a permit. Well, did we void that permit out? That's a status or sub-status. Maybe we sent them a certified letter. So that's there too. I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone that has questions about this. It's something that I really feel like is underused. I never hear about it. And I'm a huge advocate.
It sounds like the way you set it up is really smart because within each status, there's a sub-status, and the sub-status to me shows that there's still something to be done. Like you're passing the baton to another team member or waiting on something. And that way, at any point, you can see and have visibility on what's the next thing we need to do for this job.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where task management comes in. So we use Google Chat, and of course we use email, text messaging, and phone call. But again, it's that visibility piece. Like no one needs to be chasing down an answer when we all use the same thing. So we all use ServiceTitan. We all pay for ServiceTitan. We need to use it and use the features. So task management is where that internal communication comes in, which I love because it gives accountability without micromanaging. So I like to see a paper trail. Again, I can click on it and I can see where we are with any job. And projects is ever changing too. It keeps updating. And I stepped away from my role in projects because we have someone else in that seat now. But I keep clicking back and I check in on all the things. Like there's so much now. Requests for information, the internal and external communication within projects now is awesome. There's a lot of stuff you can do with projects.
It's so cool to see how excited you are about it and still continuing to.
Does that make me lame? I have no idea, but it's just like, it's fine for me because I don't care. You know why? We don't have spreadsheets anymore. So
there you go. No, you are the exact person I'd love to talk to on this podcast and people like to listen to is people who really like to nerd out in all the nitty gritty details. So you mentioned task management. Is that a feature within projects?
So task management is a feature within ServiceTitan that is, incorporated into projects. So anything related to a job, you can log a task for. You can also set up task templates. So if you find yourself logging the same task, like pull permit, or you're kicking it back to dispatch to get it scheduled, just create those task templates and there's like 14 less clicks you got to do. And all you have to really change is who you're assigning it to and maybe a business unit, but it's nothing.
So as a project starts to move along, who's responsible for updating statuses, substatuses, and creating the tasks?
So that's funny, Josh. I'm so glad you asked that because we did not talk about this the other day. And it was something that I was like, oh, we have to talk about this. Each business, you can do what you want, but There's only one person who changes anything in projects here, and that's our project coordinator. Anyone can go into projects and click on it and look around. That's totally fine, but no one changes the statuses but her or whoever's working in that seat at that time. Otherwise, too many hands in the pot. There's too much room for error. So she's in charge of all of that and she controls it. She updates all the statuses. She updates all the custom fields, which, transfer over to projects.
Okay, so that's so good to know. Is that a rule that you all just set in the company? And is there like a permission that can help support that? Or is it just something everybody follows?
Nobody really wants to mess with anything here. They will, we all do a pretty good job of staying in our lane. It's one of those unspoken rules that we talked about once, but it's really important because, that can just throw off a whole job. But if you're pulling reports or you're watching this every day and you're working in it, kind of what's going on. However, like if dispatch is ready to schedule, they only schedule that job. They don't mess with anything that has to do with projects. Yes, there is a permissions that I think controls who is able to do what with projects.
That makes sense. I'm so glad we touched on this as like a best practice when using projects. Yeah. Is the project coordinator the person who also creates the tasks?
It depends on what the task is for. So she will log a task when the permit has been approved and maybe it's ready to schedule. Dispatch will either respond back to that task saying scheduled for blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of communication that goes on within that. But dispatch also logs tasks when necessary for like letting her know when it's scheduled for or when the job is complete and it's ready for inspection. That's huge too. So there's just a lot of communication, but that's what I love. And instead of, chatting, Google Chats, whatever, it's all right there on the project record.
If we were to go back in time 9 months ago when you first took on this project to implement projects, what advice would you give yourself back then if you could start over?
I would do it all again because I went into this saying, it's either going to work and be amazing or it's going to flop and, oh, well, at least I tried. My biggest piece of advice, maybe I would have mapped out what I thought things should look like in my head. I would have just mapped it out, but I don't know that it would have changed anything because I would have had to tweak some stuff anyway. I would just say if you're interested or curious about it, just jump right in. It doesn't hurt anything. And this is the motto we go by here. Like, there is nothing that can't be fixed. So we can make these changes. They might not work. Well, we can go back to doing things the way they were. We can create these sub statuses and we can create all these custom fields. If they don't work, we'll just disable them. It's okay. So, don't be afraid to try and reach out to other businesses that might be doing something similar. That's what I do. I am not afraid to ask for best practices, ask for help. Yeah, I would just say jump right in.
That's such good advice. It's funny because commonly a lot of like the power users that I talk to on this podcast say the same thing. And it's such a good mindset of your motto that you said, that cultural thing of there's nothing that can't be fixed. And like you said, there's tweaking along the way. And sometimes there's only one way to find out, and it's to just go for it.
And I learned so much when I do that too. Go into the help and ServiceTitan and just start typing what you want and it'll pop up everything. My biggest mistakes have been my biggest learning lessons too. And not necessarily with projects, but like a trial and error. If it doesn't work, I'm going to figure out what does and I'm not going to stop. And now look at this. It's so pretty. There's so many.
That's amazing. I do want to talk a little bit about reporting because you mentioned, custom fields is something to use in terms of anything you want reporting on. What does reporting look like now in projects for you guys?
I really don't have to run a lot of reports only because this main project screen gives me a really good picture. Now, if I wanted to get really granular with things, I definitely could. Like, how many open permits do we have? But by looking right at the main screen, I only have 50 jobs in progress and we have a total of 632 completed. So even clicking on that to see which jobs are in progress, it's ones that are scheduled already. They're scheduled They're not ones from the past, maybe a few that we're waiting on the customer for, but it depends on what information you need and how often you need it. So I have it scheduled on the calendar to do a quarterly like permit audit. And we're going to be coming up on that soon. And that's the thing too. You can make this projects dashboard, so to speak. It's not an actual dashboard, but the main button on the projects tab. You can make that show you what you want it to show you. So I have it sorted by status because I want to know like what phase we're on. That's most important to me to see. So, but you can drag stuff up into the purple row to sort it, or you don't have to, but that's just what works for us.
That makes sense. So now at Streamline, what jobs do you use just normal jobs for versus projects for? Is there like a distinction?
Any job that requires a permit is going to automatically be made into a project, or any job that requires multiple visits or multiple trades is going to go into projects too. Anything bigger than a one-day job that we want to track is, well, we want to track all of our jobs, but any job that requires multiple days, multiple visits, multiple trades, and a permit is going to be most likely in a project.
That is such a good clarification. Is there anything else that we should talk about that we missed when it comes to projects or implementing this for the first time?
If you're using spreadsheets and you're thinking to yourself, there's got to be a better way, there is. I know how corny that sounds. I really do. But just start clicking around, reach out to me. I can maybe guide you a little bit. But projects has been pretty awesome, again, for just using something we're already paying for. Like, why would we not be using this? And this, it doesn't cost extra. This isn't a pro product. This is just a button on your sidebar that says projects, click it. You know, any jobs sold for later that aren't done same day are already made into projects, so to speak. But just by naming them, giving them a status, filling in the relevant information that is important to you, those projects and tracking them, it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, it just eliminates so many back and forths. And for me, efficiency is very important. So I don't want to type the same thing over and over in multiple different areas. Like, that's just not efficient. This is what I found has been most efficient.
Beautiful. I love that you mentioned earlier, like this, some people use this for like big commercial jobs, but we found a way to really make it work for our business. Yeah. And like you said, it's a core ServiceTitan feature. Everyone can use it. If you don't have it in your account, please reach out to your CSM. They can turn on that configuration for you. With that, yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. And thank you so much, Liz, for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was fun.